All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another hour of Torah study with Rabbi P. I want to welcome everybody here in our class today at the beautiful I can't have that. JCC here in Long Beach, California. Ladies and gentlemen, give me a nice hello. Hello. There you go. Okay, so you see, I'm not here alone. I'm here with a number of my good friends who are here to study Torah for 1 hour. Last week, we ended season number 1 with the Jacobsons, all gathering together in Egypt. Joseph, of course, the viceroy, and he puts them into a good spot, gives them like a nice area to live in, and they prosper. They're prospering, and that's how the story ends. He passes away, and Joseph passes away, and now we're going to go on to a brand new season number 2. Now, it starts off very positively. These are the people that came down to Egypt. Tells us again the name of the tribes, and it says that the Jews there, were prospering, and Joseph passes away. But what happens is that the children were fruitful, children of Israel were fruitful, increased, became strong, very, very much so, and the land was filled with them. So this is wonderful, right? Beautiful. The Jews came there, they bought land, they prospered, built businesses, built schools. Great. So the editors say, hey, no one's going to watch the show. It's too positive. Come on. We need a little drama. If everything is going to just tell us, oh, they did good. Forget about it. We need a little drama. So all of a sudden, it goes south quickly, very quickly. What happens? Vayakam melech chadash, a new king arises. The Pharaoh passed away. The previous Pharaoh, and now we have a new Pharaoh that doesn't remember Joseph, it didn't know Joseph, whatever it was the circumstances. And listen to this. You won't believe it. Okay? What I'm going to tell you. So a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. He said to his people, you know what? There's something strange going on over here. Behold, the children of Israel are more numerous and stronger than we. If you don't mind, Jay, if you just shut the door there. You know what? Right away, we have this old age problem. The Jews are controlling everything. Have you ever heard that before? Have you ever heard that argument? The Jews are controlling everything. What? Amazing. I mean, look at this. They're living there for 2.5 minutes. Next thing you know, the Jews own everything, and they're multiplying, and they're bigger than us and stronger than us. Now, what are we going to do about it? So here's what the king says. Listen, come, let us outsmart them. Let's come, lest they become numerous, and then maybe that if a war will come, they're going to join our enemies, and they're going to kick us out of our land, or they're going to take over the land. The key over here is, in this verse, is when he says, Hava nishchak malay. Let us be smart about it. Because the first thing you would think is, Pharaoh just says, hey, look, they certainly weren't too numerous, and there were more Jews than Egyptians. Doesn't make any sense. He could have just come in and said, hey, you know what? Let's just get rid of them. Let 1, 2, 3, drive them out of our country or whatever it is, because what he's dealing with is the Jewish problem, and he needs a solution to the Jewish problem. So he could have said, number one, let's just get rid of them. Either attack them, like the Nazis did. Kristallnacht, they chased them out of the country, killed, whatever it was. But he didn't do that. He didn't say that. He never advocated violence over here. He said, let's think of a smart way how we're going to deal with this solution, because number one is maybe people aren't going to buy this idea of violence. The Jews were business people, they did this, they did that. And if he comes and says, okay, let's immediately start to hurt them, who knows how this program is going to advance. So number one. And number two is, he thought to himself, if we go into a violent program and say, let's get rid of them, what are the Jews going to do? They're going to fight back. He never in a million years thought to himself that the Jews are going to go quietly. No, who goes quietly? No one's going to go quietly. So he says, let's outsmart them. Now, what does that mean, let's outsmart them? What are we going to do? The next thing you know that they're working for him. How does it work? Let's outsmart them. Next thing you know, they're slaves. That doesn't work that way. Not so fast. So I got to tell you the story behind the story. That's why you come to this class. Right? That's why you come here, because I fill in all the blanks here. Okay? So what he says is like this. Listen. The first thing we're going to do is, in the books, it's all legal. Because in the books, it says that on foreigners, you can place a special tax because they live here in Egypt, So for the benefit of allowing you to live here in Egypt, what we're going to do is we're going to tax you a special, what we call in residence tax. Okay? What does this tell us? That the idea of using tax against people has an old history. It hasn't started now by them taxing us out of existence. It starts back then. He says, first you put on a residence tax on them. Then what happens? You make the tax, they say, well, what is a tax? Tax is not only money. It's not only, I need money from you. Tax also could be in time, service. Like here in America, we don't know about this, what this means. But there's actually people in the world that volunteer for different things. There's a service to the country. You believe in the country. Here we don't ask of Americans anything. The word sacrifice is, if you want to, sure, you could join a club and, go. President Kennedy, remember when he started the Peace Corps, with young people flying around. Okay, but that ain't America. But and there are places that you do service for the country. Whether it's an army, there are countries that have a draft that you have to serve in the army, or you got to do things for the country. So Pharaoh instituted that, you will give me a certain amount of time that you will work. It's not slavery. Not slavery. You know what? This is going to be part of your appreciation for allowing us to allow you to live here with us. The Jews say, okay, doesn't sound so bad. We do, let's say, a few hours a week of service, but what happens? No one ever rolls back the taxes, right? No one rolls back taxes, so it started from a little bit of 2 weeks, and then 4 hours, and then it's 10 hours, and then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then it became, we pay you a little bit, then we don't pay you, and then slowly but surely, you rope them in. And therefore, that's how this got started. That in the beginning, it was nice. We started off nicely. But then the Jews didn't realize what they were getting themselves hooked into, and they allowed themselves to play this game, maybe because they wanted to be Egyptians. They wanted to show Pharaoh that we're good citizens. Because, Jews have a history that when they move into a country, they out-nationalize the people, the indigenous people that live there. Like when we come to America, we got to be more American than the Americans. We're going to show, we'll out-Americanize the Americans. You come to France, we'll be super French. You go England, we'll be super English. We tend to do that. So the same thing was probably in Egypt. We're going to show them that we're loyal citizens. We're good guys. We'll do whatever Pharaoh wants us to do. And then you know what? It just takes a generation or two before you're totally wrapped up and caught in this net. And then all of a sudden, once you're working for him in the middle of a project, Pharaoh says, okay, now we're not going to be such nice guys anymore. Now you're coming to work 6 days a week, 7 days a week, and this is your project, and if you don't like it, too bad. And then what do you have? Slavery. Now you have slavery. So this is how it's a slippery pole. This was not a one-time shot, it was a slippery pole. The Jews are actually going to be working, whether volunteer or slavery, for about 115 years. They're going to be. But 115 years till don't mention his name yet. Come on, that comes on. Soon we'll mention his name, but don't say who, don't say what. It'll be 115 years until they get out. Okay, so fine. Now we all know that Egypt was a very, very what we call a pagan country. They were, they believed in the many gods, and they believed in the pantheons and all of these things. And one of the things was superstition. And one day, once they had the Jews already wrapped up and enslaved, and they were working for free, for them had all this labor, the magicians came to Pharaoh and they said, we got some news for you, Mr. Pharaoh. What is it? We see in the future that someone is going to be born and is going to redeem these people. He's going to get them out. So Pharaoh made a quick calculation. Okay, let's say there's 100,000 of them that work for free. Yeah, who's going to replace the 100,000 workers that work for free? You know what it's going to cost me now? With benefits, overtime, FICA, then the 401k, all of this stuff. It's a fortune it's going to cost me, to replace these Jews. Oh, no, I can't have this. I cannot have a guy coming in here and telling the Jews, let's go, and they leave. It's impossible. So what do you do? So he said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna stop the problem before it grows out too big. What am I going to do? So they figured it's going to be around this general time where he's going to be born. So he calls in the midwives, and he tells the midwives this: listen, when you go into a Jewish home and you see that the kid that's being born is a boy, kill him. Kill him. A girl, let her live. But for the boys, I want you to kill them. This way, what's going to happen? He's going to eradicate the problem that the savior of Israel is never going to be even born. Okay. So let's pick it up the story, okay? This is after the Jews are being oppressed and tortured, etc., etc. He calls the women, one was named Shifra, the other name was Pua. Okay, we're on page 294, and he says, when you deliver the Hebrew women, when you see them on the birth stools, a son, kill him. If it's a girl, you should live. But the midwives feared God, and they did not do as the king of Egypt spoke to them, and they caused the boys to live. Pharaoh was very angry. Why did you do this? How come I see Jewish boys running in the street? How come you haven't killed them all? So they say, well, you think the Jewish women wait for us to deliver the kid? The Jewish women are allowed to deliver the kid as is themselves. By the time we get there, the kid's alive already. Once the kid's alive and they're holding them, we're not giving them up to us. Oh, okay, Pharaoh was not happy with the answer. God was happy with the answer, and he rewarded these two people, Shifra and Pua. But then he decided, you know what? Okay, if they're not going to do it, I'm going to have everybody kill the kids. So he told everybody, you know what? Anybody who has a boy, Jew, Egyptian, he doesn't care. I want all the boys killed. And he doesn't put police. He tells the mothers. He tells the mothers, when if you have a kid, one boy, kill him out. Kill him. Okay, some people did, some people didn't. I'm not sure how successful that program was, but let's just say that that's what it was. But I want to go back just one step to who these two midwives were, because the Torah tells us their name, Shifra and Pua. Now, for most of the commentaries and then we have in the oral tradition that Shifra and Pua were really code names for Yocheved and Miriam. Who were Yocheved and Miriam? So Yocheved was married to this fellow by the name of Amram. She had a son, Aaron, and a daughter, Miriam. Okay, we'll leave it at that for right now. Okay, so that was who Yocheved was, and Miriam was her daughter. Okay, so these were the two Jewish midwives, and these two were righteous women, because you'll soon see they play another important part in the story that we'll get up to in a moment. But they're not going to do what Pharaoh says. What are you talking about? Kill the Jewish boys? What are you, crazy or something? You're out of your mind? No way, no chance. And Hashem says to them, okay, you know what? You did the right thing, and I'm going to bless you. And Hashem built for them homes, bought them. Now, it doesn't really mean a house. He got them a house in Beverly Hills, but he established their families. And Yocheved is going to have children, and Miriam is going to have children, and they're going to have a wonderful, beautiful legacy that they're going to live. And most commentaries say this is who it was. And even Rashi also agrees with this, and he says the name Shifra because she beautified the child, and Pua because Pua, like a mefafeya, Shifra would sing to them and calm them down, and Miriam would beautify them. Each of them had their own role in giving birth, and that's the story that we're sticking to. Okay? And it's a beautiful story. Two wonderful Jewish women. But then comes along a commentary, his name is Abarbanel. Don Yitzchak Abarbanel. And he is one of the more famous commentaries on the Torah. He himself is an incredibly brilliant person. He lives at the time in 1492 in Spain. And he's part of the exile where Ferdinand and Isabella get rid of all of the Jews. But he himself is high up there in the ranks. And they tell him, you know what, we want you to stay. I'm going to stay. You can get rid of all the Jews. I have no minion. Well, I'm not staying. I'm not staying with no minion in town. Well, are you crazy? No shul. So he leaves, and eventually, but among all the things that he does, this Yitzchak Abarbanel is write a commentary on the Torah. It's brilliant. I mean, I'm saying it. Well, who am I to say that he's a brilliant guy? It's like saying that Einstein was a good scientist. I mean, wonderful. Perelmuter recognizes Einstein's science. Fine. Okay, that's what he was waiting for, Einstein, his entire career, that I should second his thing. But Abarbanel writes a commentary, and he writes like this concerning these two women. He says, think about this for a second. Does it make any logical sense that Pharaoh would come to two Jewish midwives and ask them to kill the Jewish boys? It doesn't make any sense that he would do that. So Shifra and Puah, in his opinion, in his humble opinion, are not Yocheved and Miriam. To him, it doesn't make any sense. Pharaoh knows they're not going to do it. You can imagine a Jewish midwife is going to kill a Jewish kid in front of its mother. What are you, crazy? So who is Shifra and Puah? Shifra and Puah, according to Abarbanel, are two Egyptian midwives. Two Egyptian midwives. And he tells these two Egyptian midwives, this is what I want you to do. Now here, think about this for a second. I love this commentary, because Yocheved and Miriam, it's a no-brainer. Already, if I tell you who Yocheved was, and you'll find it in a few minutes, you're going to say, well, of course. Yeah, of course. And if I tell you who Miriam was, of course. But when Abarbanel says that these were two anonymous women, we know nothing about them, Shifra and Puah, two Egyptian midwives. Now, why would the Jewish women employ Egyptian midwives? Yeah, you have a question. Good for your question. Hold on to it. We'll get to it in a few weeks. Okay? But in the meantime, we're going to talk about what they did. So think about this. Two Egyptian midwives that had no dog in the fight. I mean, these were not Jewish women. These were Jewish, and the king commanded of them. And this was not a pushover king. This is Pharaoh we're talking about. The whole country is fearing him. He's a strong-hearted leader. like he's leading them. And these two women say to him, "No, we're not doing it. You know what? We're not doing it. You want other things? We'll bake you cookies. You want this? We'll do this. But what you're asking us to do, we're absolutely not doing it." Think about that for a second. The heroism of these two women. Think about the courage of these two women, because you don't know what the end result could be. This is such a fanatic and such a Michiganer, that he could have killed them on the spot too. He could have killed them on the spot. So here such a lesson when Abarbanel brings this down of regular people speaking truth to power. We call this speaking truth to power. That even though that Pharaoh has all the power in his hands and he's leading this campaign, but here we are, regular people rising up and saying to this is corruption, this is illegal, immoral, and we are not going to cross this line. What do you do to these women? You applaud them. This makes for a wonderful episode. To take regular people that have no history of heroism. Now you tell me Abraham did it. Okay, of course. That's how he was written in the script. You tell me Yitzchak, Jacob, one of these, of course. But we take two regular Egyptian women that have no special place in Judaism, no history of being good with the Jews, nothing, and they stand up in front of Pharaoh, puts the spotlight on whom? Us. On every one of us. That if these two anonymous women by themselves decided that they're going to do something extraordinary, and guess what? They get written into the series. You see that? Mm-hmm. Then it's incumbent upon us that when an opportunity for us comes, that we have to do something courageous, what should we do? We should do it. We should stand up, right? As the saying goes, when the going gets tough, the tough go to Hawaii. That's me, okay? If Pharaoh comes to me and says, I want you to do something courageous, I'd say, well, go to Jay. Jay has courage. Me, I'm just a lover. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? Go to the courageous guy. But the truth of the matter is that I've always said that there are people in the world that do incredible, extraordinary things, and they shine the spotlight. And we're not talking about the Rambam, for example. The Rambam writes, 100 books. Forget it. You can live 7 lives and you'll not accomplish a tenth of what he accomplished. Others, the Baal Shem Tov, forget about that. Don't measure yourself to these people, because it's not going to happen. Who do we measure ourselves against? Shifra and Puah. These two women in the Torah, that's who we measure ourselves against. Can we, at a moment of truth that needs someone to stand up, where are you going to be? What are you going to do? And that's I think a tremendous lesson, and I think that Abarbanel was wanting to share with us at this. Needless to say, these women are heroines and will always go down as heroes, whether Yocheved and Miriam, whether it's Shifra and Puah, the Egyptians, they go down as heroines. And guess what happens? Next thing you know, the Torah switches, tells us about a Ben Levi. someone, and goes, he marries a Bas Levi. We don't know what, when, who, and where. Who are they? And all of a sudden, a kid is born. Ooh, a kid is born. Who is this? His name is Amram. Her name is Yocheved. Yocheved, you see, I'm talking about Yocheved. And they together have a child. Why is this something special? Because Amram, interestingly enough, he withdrew from having children. Meaning, once Pharaoh laid down the law that all of the males are going to be killed, he told Yocheved, I don't want to have any more children. I don't want to have any more children. That's it, finished. Okay, fine. Comes along Miriam, who's his oldest kid, okay? It's his daughter, and tells the father, Amram, you should know that you are worse than Pharaoh. He says, I'm worse than Pharaoh. Why? How do you accuse me being worse than Pharaoh? He says, because Pharaoh only wants the Jewish males killed. You're killing both the males and the females. Because what if you would have girls? What if you have a daughter? Come on. He looks at her, this little girl, maybe she's around 8 years old or whatever the circumstances are around over here, and she makes perfect sense. Now think about this, she's 8 years old and she's a midwife already. Okay, fine. They matured very quickly in those days. Okay? All right? So he thinks to himself, you know what? She's right. She's absolutely right. So therefore the Torah tells us the whole story that he went, what does it say over there, right? It says here, Vayelech ish min beis Levi, a man from the house of Levi, and took, Yocheved was his aunt. Amram and Yocheved were related. Amram was his father's sister. Okay, so he married his aunt, basically. Okay? And from this a baby was born, and we don't know who this baby was, but obviously a special baby, and the mother says, I can't hide him anymore, because she gave birth to him, let's say, at the beginning of the 7th month. He was a preemie, and they came looking for him at the end of the 9th month. So you had the 7th, 8th, and 9th month that she could still watch over him, but at the end of the 9th month, people knew that she was pregnant. They came looking for her. Hey, where's the kid? Where's the kid? Where's the kid? So she decided, okay, she has to do something, has to hide the kid. What does she do? She builds a little box, and she puts clay in it, and she puts tar around it, and she puts him in the box, and she puts him in the reeds by the river. So this teaches us something very important, that the greatest Jew was a basket case. Okay? The greatest Jew started off as a basket case. Okay? Next thing you know, the Pharaoh's daughter is out there, and she's swimming, and then she sees a basket over there, and she hears crying from the basket, and she takes the kid, and she looks at the kid, and she says, oh, this is a Jewish kid. How did she know this was a Jewish kid? Because obviously Moshe Rabbeinu was circumcised, of course, and she takes him and she brings him into her house, and she starts to raise him, and obviously she tells her father, Pharaoh, no, you can't take this kid because this is a special kid. I want to have him. And Pharaoh, in a moment of foolishness, because he's not realizing that what he's allowing into the house is literally the savior, of the Jewish people, says, okay, you know what, then next thing you know, Miriam is there, because Moshe Rabbeinu is not nursing. Oh no, and she names him Moshe Rabbeinu, because why Moses? Why does she call Moses? Because I drew him out of the water. His name in the Talmud tells us his name. He had many different names. Yukasio. His mother called him something. This guy, he had many different names, but we know him as Moshe. Moshe. Finally, I could say the name because I didn't want to blow it up beforehand. So now Moshe is born, but Moshe Rabbeinu is not nursing. The Egyptians tried to nurse him. He's not eating. Why not? It's not kosher. He's not drinking any non-kosher milk. So she doesn't know what to do. So Miriam says, I can tell you what to do. The sister goes and I'll get someone that he will nurse from. She says, who is it? Don't worry about it. I'll get someone. She tells Yocheved, the mother, Moshe needs you. He goes there and she nurses him. She nurses him. Why is he not drinking milk? Because he knows that in the future he's going to be on the Har Sinai talking to God, and he wants the angels to say, hey, you let this guy come, he drank non-kosher Egyptian milk. Forget about it. It's not happening. So he wants to drink Chalav Yisrael. Now we have Chalav Yisrael milk. That means we're only strictly kosher, 100% certified kosher milk, and he'll only drink from his mother's milk. This is a tzaddik. What can I tell you? It's not one of us. This is a special individual that's growing up over here. Okay? And he grows up in the palace. In the palace, One day he sits on Pharaoh's lap while he's a young kid, and he grabs Pharaoh's crown off his head and puts it on his own head. Now, I had mentioned to you beforehand that Pharaoh was a very, very superstitious guy. And he goes, oh, no, this is no good. This is no good. The guy wants the crown. So he says, I want to kill him before he takes the crown. His daughter pleads with him, no, it's just a kid. So they give him a test. What's the test? The test is they put in front of him 2 plates. One of them is gold and jewelry and silver and bronze and diamonds, and the other one is hot coals. And Pharaoh says if he goes for the diamonds and the jewels, means what? He wants the crown. But if he goes for the coals, then, so he's sitting over there here. Now, what do you think a kid is going to go for? Who's going to go for the hot coals? So he reaches for the things, but a malach from heaven comes, an angel comes and moves his hand over to the coals. He picks up the hot coals and he brings it to his lips and he burns his lips. And from then on, Moses had what we call a speech impediment. Okay, whether he stuttered or whether he lisped, whatever it was, we don't know. But he's later on going to tell God, "Ki chavit peh, I have no good lips. I'm not your salesman. I can't be a good salesman." Okay, fine. Moshe grows up in the things, but he always knew one thing, that he's Jewish. It's very different than the Egyptians. Even though he grows up in this milieu with the Egyptians, he always knew his mother drilled it to his head. He said, "No, I don't care where you live. I don't care if you live among these people. This is not who you are. You are a Yidel, okay? You're a Yidel, you're a Yidel, you're a Yidel." That was a great, but he didn't know much about the Jews because he was living in Cairo. The Jews were working in Goshen. So one day he decides, you know what, he's going to take a little trip and he's going to go visit the Jews to see what's going on. What does he see? He sees an Egyptian taskmaster beating up a Jew. He's beating a Jew. He doesn't like this. He thinks this is unfair. So the first act that Moshe Rabbeinu does, that's public, is he kills someone. He kills the Egyptian and he buries him in the ground. No one knows, no one sees, no one cares. Still. Okay. He goes back home. The next day comes back, see what else is going on. He sees 2 Jews that are arguing. He doesn't like it because he wants peace among the brothers. He goes to the 2 Jews. Not you, Dave. Rasha, lama sakareyecha. Wicked one, why are you fighting with the other guy? So the 2 Jews says, oh, look who showed up. This is Dasan and Aviram, 2 enemies that are constantly going to be, what do you call it when someone, a thorn thank you very much, a thorn in the side of Moshe. They're constantly going to be a thorn in the side of Moshe, and they say to him, oh, who made you the chief bottle washer here? All of a sudden, the guy grows up in the palace, he shows up here now, what are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian you did yesterday? Oh, low blow. So Moshe says, okay, the matter is known, and he takes off. He says, I have to get out of Egypt. Now that, because Pharaoh heard about it, wanted to kill him, and he leaves. End of the story. Okay? And that's how the episode ends. Next week it opens up, and Moshe Rabbeinu is a vagabond. Because now, the rest, everything else that happens in the past is in the past. From now on, the story is now going to take on a life of its own, and now we're going to switch from the Jacobsons to Moshe Rabbeinu. And this is his story. The next 4 books, till his death, is going to concentrate simply on him. And here he is. He's traveling the world. Now, we don't really know much about what happens between the ages of 20, I'm assuming he was around 20 when he killed the Egyptians, till about 80 when he returns to Egypt. So there's a 60-year gap. We don't know much about it. The Medrash tries to fill in a little bit of what went on. He moved to Ethiopia. Ethiopia is just south of Egypt. He hung out with them for a while, became like a leader of the Kushim, of the Ethiopians. He wasn't happy there. He started to travel a little bit more. Anyways, he's traveling. He ends up in Midian. And now he's like 80 years old, and he decides, you know what? I've been doing a lot of traveling. Maybe I should settle down. Time maybe to settle down at 80. Okay? Could be. Okay, so what does he do? Where do you meet women? Come on. Where, who said that? Who? At the watering well. Right? He had heard the stories from his parents that, you want to meet a girl, you want to meet a pretty girl, where do you go? To the well. So he decides, in Midian there's a well, he's going to hang out at the well.
And he waited until he was 80?
He was 80 years old. Yeah, well, come on. You know what? He was a probably good-looking guy, and, 80 years old. He was traveling, and 80 years old. I'm not saying he didn't have any other relation. He may have had other girlfriends. I don't know. I said it. We don't know between 20 and 60 what went on. But no serious relationship. No serious, relationship. So he hangs out at the well, and he sees these group of girls coming down to water the flock of their father, but the shepherds are chasing them away. What happened? So the daughters were the daughters of Yisro. Yisro had 7 daughters. If you go through the Torah, you will find that Jethro or Yisro has 7 different names. There's Yisro, Yeser, Putiel, Ruel, a number of different names he has, throughout the Torah. Commentators asks, why do we change his name so often? The answer is very simple. He had 7 daughters. After every wedding, which cost him a fortune, he declared chapter 11 and reorganized under a new name. That was the bottom line. That's why he had 7 different names. So he has 7 names. So Moshe Rabbeinu is looking at these girls. They're being chased away. Why? Because Jethro had rejected, some theology that the Midianites were proposing. So he was on the outs. So they wouldn't let the girls, water the sheep. The sheep. So they chased him away. Along comes the hero, Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, "Leave it up to me. I'll take care of this." And he waters the sheep, and he sends them home. They come home. And the father says, "Why are you here so early?" He says, "Well, there was an Egyptian man," which is very interesting, because how did they refer to him as an Egyptian man, not a Ivri, not a Jewish man, but an Egyptian man, because probably he was dressed Egyptian and spoke Egyptian. And so why don't you bring him home? A guy does you a favor. What kind of people are we? The guy, you left him at the well, hanging like this at the well. What's wrong with you girls? Go get him. So they said, come on, come eat. I know you're hungry. We have special glatt kosher dishes, for Jews. So I must have had, right? Don't worry. And guess what? He looks at the youngest daughter, and what was her name? Tzipporah. Thank you, Tzipporah. And he looks at Tzipporah, and his heart is overwhelmed with love. And Yisro says to him, "Bevakasha, no problem. Marry Tzipporah," and he marries Tzipporah.
Was she also 80?
No, she was actually 19. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. I don't know how old she was. I don't know. That would be too much of a difference. I think she was like 20. No. I don't know. But whatever it was, she could have been 80 and looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Eyes are the beauty of the beholder, right? Beauty is the eyes of the beholder, I should say, right? And he marries beautiful Tzipporah. We know how beautiful she is because later on the Torah is going to testify about her beauty. She's beautiful. Moshe Rabbeinu has a son, and life is now good. Look at him. Now, all this guy, a vagabond, a guy that was a refugee, a man that was a convict that was running his entire life, finally, after all these years, he can exhale. No one's chasing him. The Egyptians are far away from him. He's in Midian. He has his beautiful wife. He has a business. He has a son. Life is beautiful. And one day, and there's another lesson in life, ladies and gentlemen, just when you think you can exhale and life is beautiful, guess what happens? Here we come to the story. Okay? So one day he's out there and he's like just watching his flock. Now, why are our forefathers and Moshe Rabbeinu shepherds? Why this particular industry did they go into? Because shepherding allows you a lot of time for thinking. And Moshe Rabbeinu was a philosopher. He was a thinker. You're going to come up to some of the laws he's going to come up with. You're going to see creative, through God. I mean, of course, him and God partnerships, not of his own. But here he is. He's living a life, no problem. Flock. He's sitting and meditating. When all of a sudden he sees one of the sheep, like the young ones, takes off. So Moshe Rabbeinu wants to he starts chasing him, but he can't catch him. The sheep keeps running, and he keeps running after him. And as he's about to get close to him, he keeps running till he comes to this mount. And he runs up this little mountain, and then Moshe Rabbeinu catches him on this mountain. He catches him on the mountain, and he gives a look around, something is weird here. What's weird? There's a bush. Okay, nothing to do with the presidential family. Okay? Nothing to do with the Bushes. Okay? I just want to get that clear if people think, but okay, nothing to do with them. He sees a bush. Okay. But the bush is on fire. The bush is on fire. Okay, he's waiting for the bush. He doesn't want it to spread because who knows what could happen. We know what could happen with a fire here, unfortunately. But it's not burning. It's burning, it's not going out. So this gets his curiosity. So he decides he's going to go and check it out. Check out the scene. So as he comes closer, boom, there's a voice. Halt! Don't come any closer. He doesn't come any closer. Okay, what's going on? God appears to him for the first time. That we know. God appears to him for the first time and tells him, no. First thing you're going to do is take off your shoes. As I explained Shabbos and Shul, why take off your shoes? Is because I want you to start feeling the pain. We wear shoes so we shouldn't feel any pain. He tells him, I want you to take off your shoes because now you're going to be the leader of the Jewish people. I want you to take off your shoes. So every pebble that you step on, every rock that you step on, every time you come, you'll feel the pain because that's what a good leader does. A good leader doesn't sit himself in some ivory tower and lets everybody, all of his followers, suffer. A good leader, a true leader, unlike Sarah, I am with you. And that was the message of the bush. That Hashem says to him, I'm with you. Right here, just like the bush is not burning, means I'm with you during this time of travail. I'm always going to be with you. And the reason why it was a bush and not some other things is, again, because humility. God wanted to show humility coming in a small little bush, not a giant oak tree, a small little bush, that I am with you in this pain that the Jews are feeling. Okay. All right, so here I am, and my shoes are off, and can I go now? No. I have a mission for you. What's the mission? Okay. The mission is I want you to go down to Pharaoh, and I want you to tell them, let my people go, because I've heard their pain, and now it's time for redemption. So Moshe Rabbeinu says like this, okay, all right. Let me get this straight. I'm sitting here, living a good life I have a wife and a child now, you may know, and my father-in-law get along well, not like Jacob and his father-in-law, but I get along with my father-in-law well, and I'm happy here. I'm happy. And you want me now to leave everything behind, go back to Egypt, where a guy that promised to kill me all those years ago is sitting there with a sword, right? And you want me to tell him, so first of all, let me say this. I don't know him. I don't know anything much about the Jews either, okay? And third of all, there's someone that really you should be speaking to. I'm not the right guy. Who? Exactly. You should be speaking to Aaron, because Aaron, my brother, he's really the hero of the story. I'm a nobody. What am I? First of all, I can't speak. I'm not a good speaker. Remember I told you that he stuttered. He stuttered. I'm not a good speaker. I'm going to come to Pharaoh and stutter my... Number two, the Jews are going to ask me, who are you? Where are you? God appeared to you. How do you know? Who's this God? What's this God? When's this God? My brother Aaron, he suffered. He was a leader. He stuck with the Jews. Think about this. Aaron didn't leave for a day out of Egypt. Every day as a leader of the Jewish people had to see what they were going through. He's the one that you should go. He has street credibility. I got no street credibility. I'm going to come down there and say, who are you? We know who you are. 60 years ago you came here and you killed an Egyptian and then you took off and you didn't write, you didn't text, you didn't tweet, nothing. Gurnish, you're not on TikTok. We don't know you. We don't know any of you. Go to my brother Aaron. God says, no, I'm not going to your brother Aaron. I'm going to you. You, this is your destiny. But I don't know how to speak. You will speak. Don't worry. Aaron is going to help you along. He's going to help you along. He says, what am I going to say to them? When they ask me, who is this God? What should I say? What's God's name? Eya Asher Eya. I'm with you and I'll be with you. Eya Asher Eya. I'm with you and I'll be with you. I'm with you in this time of oppression. I will be with you throughout your history in time of oppression. So Moshe says, one second. You want me to tell them, think about this for a second. It's not such a good idea. Why? You want me to tell them that there's a God that appeared to me who says to me that I'm with you in this oppression, and guess what? When you get out of here, guess what's going to happen to you? You'll have more oppression. So I should tell them that their history is going to be bleak and dark? it's not such a good idea. Let's switch the name. You got to have a better name. He says, okay, don't tell them that. That's probably not a good idea to tell them that and what's going to happen in the future. But tell them I'm with them, and I'm with them right now, and I'm going to get them out of Egypt. And Moses says, look, I'm not a good speaker. You don't understand. And God keeps saying to him, but you don't understand. Who made speakers? I'm the one that made a mouth. I'm the one that makes people. I'm the one that makes people blind and see. I make people lame and healthy. I'm telling you. And then finally says Moshe Rabbeinu, after exhausting all different types of arguments, everything, he says to Hashem, Shlach na b'yad tishlach. Send the one that you normally send, which means that send Aaron. And you know what must have been that Hashem may have had communications with Aaron, Shlach na b'yad tishlach, one who's worthy of sending, and he's going to do it for you. And at that point, God gets angry at him, and he says, No v'yicham Hashem. God says, you're going to go. Aaron, don't worry about it. I know that you care very much about your brother, and I know that you're worried about his honor, but I promise you that he will, not only will he support you, he will revel in the fact that you are back and that you're going to do what you're going to do. Not only is he not going to be angry at you and jealous of you, he'll be proud of you, and he's going to stick by you. Well, Moshe Rabbeinu says, listen, if that's the way it's going to be, and you're not going to let me go home, and we've been here for a number of days arguing back and forth why I should not go, I'm in. Now, let's go back to the speech just for a second. What's going to happen over here? Now, I mentioned to you before about Moshe Rabbeinu being a stutterer, right? And Aaron is going to be his interpreter. Now, Moshe is going to use this as an excuse along the way, till he doesn't use it as an excuse anymore, because eventually he's going to get healed. Because throughout the entire Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to the Jewish people. It's not only Aaron. But at this particular time, Moses was worried, and probably rightfully so, that no one's going to listen to him. What he didn't realize is that sometimes a deficit turns to your advantage. Right? Sometimes a deficit turns to your advantage. Like many times a person in a failed business, the fact that you failed was the catalyst for your success in something else. And had you not failed, you would never be able to achieve what you achieved today. And if you ask for successful businessmen and businesswomen, they will tell you this. It's so true that, you know what, we first had to experience failure. Only once I experienced failure, then I was able to see where my mistakes were, and someone that is bright, then you know that how I can achieve success. I think I've told you the story once, that there was a fellow with a speech impediment. He stuttered. Now, I don't want to make any, this is going on Facebook, so I respect, but just for the sake of the story, I'm going to imitate a little stutterer, but have nothing against stutterers. And we should never make fun of anybody with an impediment. But this fellow stuttered, okay? He couldn't get any employment. So one day he's looking through the newspaper. I know young people don't know what that is, but once upon a time when we were looking for a job, where did you go? To the help wanted ads, right? The help wanted ads. He opens up the newspaper and he says, a company that's looking for a salesman. They sell Bibles. Okay, they sell Bibles. He decides he's going to go and apply. He comes into this company and he says, I would like a job. The manager says, are you kidding me? You're going to do a job? This is a sales job. You stutter. How? He says, please give me a chance. Okay, this is a Christian company, sell Bibles. They say, fine. You know what? What can you lose? What would he lose? It's on commission anyways. Fine. Okay? So the guy says, okay, I'll try you out, give you a job. So the guy says, tell me, how many Bibles does a good salesman sell? The guy says, look, a weak salesman, very weak, sells about 20 Bibles a week. An intermediate salesman, about 30. A good salesman, between 40 and 50. Okay. The first week, the guy comes back, 70 Bibles sold. 70 Bibles sold. So the manager thinks to himself, you know what? It's beginner's luck. Rookie's luck. The next week, 80 Bibles sold. What the heck? Okay, we'll give him 2 weeks. The third, 90. And the fourth, he hit 100 Bibles sold. No one had ever done that in a week's time. So finally the manager calls him in and says like this to him, "Sir, please have a seat. I got to find out from you. What is your secret? How do you do this? No one's ever sold 100 Bibles. Our best salesman hit once in a blue moon, 70, 80 around Christmas time. People get excited. 70, 80 Bibles. But 100, no one hit. How do you do it?" He says, I don't know. But what I do is, I go up to the door. I knock on the door. The lady opens up the door. I say to her like this: "Would you like to buy a Bible, or should I read it to you?" 100 Bibles sold. That's the key. Okay? So here is a perfect example of someone that did what with his impediment. He used it for his advantage. And the same thing is here. He says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Believe me, your kvayt peh, your impediment will be your greatest. Don't worry about it. You go down there and you do what you have to do, and you are going to be the greatest of all greats, and I'm telling you." Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu comes back to his father-in-law and he tells him, "My friend, I have to go back to Egypt now, see about my brothers and what's going on over there." And his father says, "Go." He takes Zipporah and he takes his son, and he says, "Come on, we're gonna go," and they travel down. On the outside, God tells Aaron, "Listen, Aaron, Moshe's coming, and I have appointed him, and I want him to go to Pharaoh, and I want you to help him out." So Aaron goes and he meets him on the outskirts of the city, and he sees Moshe Rabbeinu is coming with a donkey and a woman and a baby, and he says to him, "Mihu zeh ve'ezehu." First, of course, the bread and this, and get to know who's this. He says, "Well, this is Zipporah, my son." And yes, sir. And he says to him, "One second, we don't have enough trouble with the Jews there. You're bringing us more trouble. Tell them to go home. You don't need them over here. It's pretty bad inside the city." So Moshe turns to Zipporah and he says, "Zipporah, I'm going to catch up with you late. You go back home and sit with him, and I'll call for you when everything is finished. I'll call for you." And she leaves him. So he comes in, and Aaron and him sit down, and they gather 70 elders, and they say, "Gentlemen, this is the greatest news that has happened. God has remembered the Jewish people. He has heard the cries, the moaning, the groaning of what's going on. And he has said, I am here to fulfill my promise." Because if you remember years and years and years ago, when he made a covenant with Abraham, and they split the animals, they walked through the animals, he said to him, "Your children will one day inherit the land of Israel, a land that flows with milk and honey, the greatest land ever, but not today. Not today. It's going to take time. It's going to take 400 years from the time that Isaac is born. In 400 years from now, your children will be ready. And today is the day." Moshe Rabbeinu says, "And now, gentlemen, today is the day. And I'm here to do it. And here I have my staff with me, my stick." And so they said, "What's the plan? What's the plan, Moses? You're coming up with a plan?" He says, "Yep. Tomorrow morning, all of us here are going to march right down to the palace. We're going to walk up the stairs to the palace. Pharaoh is going to be sitting there with his whole retinue. We're going to go right up to Pharaoh, and we're going to say, 'God appeared to us. He wants us to come out, and you have to let us go.'" Everybody looks around him and says, "Great plan. Great plan. And who are we going with? Just us. Just us. Pharaoh has an army." He says, "So what? I have a staff." Oh, that makes good sense. Pharaoh has thousands of people in his army. He has chariots. He has bow and arrow archers. He has swordsmen. But you have a stick. Okay. Oh, that makes perfect sense to us. Moses says, "Yeah. So, okay, the next morning they come together, and the first guy says, "Listen, Moses, listen. I happened to forget. I checked my email this morning, and I have a doctor's appointment, so I can't come with you." Okay. The next guy said he has a dentist's appointment. Third guy said his accountant. The fourth guy says his cow is sick. The other guy said he has to help the other guy deliver the cow. Everybody, one by one, deserted him. One guy stuck with him. Who? Aaron. Aaron said to him, "Moses, wherever you go, I'm going with you. You have nothing to worry about. I'm with you thick and thin. Whatever happens, no matter what, I'm going to stick with you." Think about this. I mean, when you read this, if you don't get goosebumps, if you can't feel the passion and the intensity of what's going on here right now, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, think about this. Everybody's gone. Aaron is in a way humiliated, right? He gathered 70 people. Then Moses says, "Get me 70 of the best people that we have." Aaron gets 70 of the Ziknei Anash, 70 of the elders. Every one of these guys is supposed to be a good guy, and one by one they disappear on him. So Aaron is hurt. Moses, So Aaron says, "I'm going to stick with you through thick and thin. Don't worry about it." They go to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh says, "What can I do for you, gentlemen?" And Moses said, "God appeared to me, and Shalach Asami v'yavduni, he wants you to let my people go so they can worship me on the mountain." And Pharaoh says, "No problem. Goodbye." And that's the end of the story. Nah, come on. That can't end the scene like that. The story can't end like that. Pharaoh says, "Are you nuts or something?" Think about this for a second. You're coming to me to ask me to let the Jewish people go. First of all, I don't know who your God is. Who is your God? So they do a little trick. Aaron throws down the staff. It turns into a snake. There he says, "Big deal." Egyptians throw down their staff. They turn into snakes. Magic flying back and forth. It goes back in it. Aaron's snake swallows their snakes. Still doesn't impress Pharaoh. Get out of here. You know what? You guys are only here because you want the Jews to have it easier. Guess what? Now I'm going to make it harder for them because you showed up. So all of the straw that I used to provide for them to make the bricks, I'm not giving them anymore. From now on, they have to go get their own straw, okay? And get their own straw. And oh boy. Oh, this is. So Moses and Aaron walk out. And as they walk out of the palace where Pharaoh is, near you guys are a bunch of lazy bums, he screams at Moses and Aaron. All you want is to have easy off and all of that stuff, etc., etc., etc. No. They walk outside. Who do they meet? These two guys that Moses, 60 years ago, remember you saw these two people fighting, Dasan and Aviram? Remember those names. He meets Dasan and Aviram outside of the palace. And Dasan and Aviram said, "Good job. Wonderful job. You came over here, and since you showed up, Moses, guess what? It's worse. Now the Egyptians hate us more than they hated us yesterday. It was hard to believe that they hate us more than yesterday." So Moses goes, and he encounters God. Now, just to juxtapose Moses and Abraham, what did Abraham say when God asked him to sacrifice Isaac? What was his response?
Are you kidding?
Hineni. No, he didn't say, What did he say? Hineni. Well, he said he was ready. V'yashkim of Rabbi Boker. Abraham woke up early in the morning, right? Didn't ask him anything. You know what Moses' response when he encounters God is? "What'd you do to me? What'd you do? Lama resh, lama zeh. I'm worse off. You told me, you in the desert, I was minding my own business, not bothering anybody, contemplating the mysteries of the universe, and then all of a sudden I see a burning bush. You show up, convince me that I need to go down because you are going to let the Jewish people go out of Egypt. You're going to make it easy. I come down there. Not only does he not let the Jewish people out of Egypt, now it's worse. Because now they have no straw. They got to wake up. If they woke up 4 in the morning, now they got to wake up 2 in the morning to find straw. What do you do? So God says, first of all, take a pill. Chill out. Chill out, my friend. Chill out. It's only early in the game. There's a second inning. So they got 7 runs. We still have plenty of time to catch up. Don't worry. You're going to see that I'm going to deal with God, with them in a way that they're going to let you go. It's going to take time. Don't worry. But trust in me. And in that, He says, trust in me, and the curtains close on this episode. We don't know what's going to happen next week, but we're going to see here right now that number one, Moses is a little different than the forefathers. The forefathers said whatever was thrown at them, what did they do? They took it. Jacob had to run, he ran. Jacob did. Isaac, they dug the grave. They never questioned God, Lama. The only time that Abraham asked him for a little sign was when he told him, your children will inherit the land. And he says, how am I going to know? He said, don't worry about it, you will know. That was the only time they challenged him. The other time Abraham challenged God was when? By Sodom and Gomorrah. It wasn't even for himself. Just for a bunch of bums in Sodom and Gomorrah. Moshe Rabbeinu, no. He's a different character. He is someone that's very, very different. Something went south. What did he do? He said, Lama Reisa Lama Zeh. Why did you do this? I got to know. So Hashem says, oh boy, he tells his angels, we're in for a run. Because this one is not like the other ones. Woe on those that are forgotten, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, why did he choose Moshe Rabbeinu? Let's talk about this just for a minute before we go. Why him and not Aaron? I mean, because Aaron was truly the one that was in Egypt, and Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, so if you think Kabbalistically, I can't even begin to tell you how they refer to Moshe in Kabbalah. He is Chachma Atzilus. Atzilus is the highest level of all the spiritual worlds, and Moses' soul came from the highest level of the highest world. Chachma Atzilus, the wisdom of Atzilus, means that his soul had never come down before. This was a soul that was pure, specially set aside for coming down to save the Jewish people. So, Kabbalistically, we understand why he picked Moshe Rabbeinu, because this is his destiny. Your destiny is not to be a shepherd. Your destiny is not to live in Midian. Your destiny is to take the Jewish people out of Egypt, and, most importantly, to do what? Give them the Torah. That's what your destiny is. So Kabbalistically and spiritually we understand. We also could make a strong case why Moshe Rabbeinu versus Aaron. Because Aaron, what was he his entire life? He was insubordinate. He lived in a society that was enslaved. So regardless of how great you are, if you live in this society, like imagine living with the Soviets between 1930 and 1960, the time of the Cold War, and Stalin is really putting it. You know what you do? Even if you're a revolutionary, what do you do? Keep your head down. Thank you very much. Okay? It's like that Russian guy that tried to rabble-rouse against the Communist Party. He put out leaflets in the Red Square one night. Who is it? KGB. Open up. He takes all of his pamphlets that says down with the Communist Party, hides it under his bed, but he had a parrot. He was worried. So he grabbed the parrot and put it in the freezer. Shuts the freezer. Okay? The KGB comes in. All of a sudden from the kitchen you hear like this. Long live Mother Russia. Oh, very nice. A minute later. Long live the Communist Party. Oh, look at this. What is it? Third day is, long live Comrade Brezhnev. The head of the... So the KGB says, I'm proud of this guy. Looks like a good guy. Look at this. This. They say, we're so sorry, sir. We made a mistake. They leave. He's angry. He runs to the kitchen. He flies open. He opens up the freezer. He grabs the parrot by the neck. He says, who told you to say these things? This is. The parrot looks at him and says, sir, 10 minutes in Siberia and you'd also be saying that. Okay? All right? Okay? All right? So you know what? So Aaron in Egypt, as great as he was, still was... Where was Moshe Rabbeinu for the last 60 years? Free. Free. He was free. So in that feeling of freedom, in that feeling of feeling free, we were worried that if Aaron comes to Pharaoh and says, let my people go, and Pharaoh says to him, you know what? I'll give them Fridays off. How about I give you Friday off? Aaron says, okay, I'll take it. Moshe Rabbeinu is not negotiating. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he took the job, and we'll see it the next several weeks, when he took the job, puts himself fully into the job. I'm not going to get intimidated by Pharaoh, because I know what freedom means. I live freedom, and these people are going to be free. How he's going to get them out and how God is going to answer him, that's for next week's chapter. And until then, have a wonderful week. Thank you. Okay.